Hello students, welcome to Biology Bomb. Myself Keshav Bansal, and today we are going to study about viruses. Okay, so before starting the video, I want to inform you that those students who want to study in English language, okay, so because this channel Biology Bomb contains videos in both Hindi language and English language, and most of the playlists are dedicated to Hindi language. Okay, so if you want to study in English language, for that I made a special playlist by the name of Life Sciences in English. So you can choose that playlist to receive all the videos in English language. Okay. So what we're going to study in this video, let's come back to our topic. We are going to study about what are viruses, okay? How we are going to define a virus, what is meant by a virus, how it differs from other microorganisms. Then we are going to study about their discovery, how they're discovered, what people are behind their discovery, what scientists done what experiments. Okay, then we are going to study about their general characteristic, what are their general characteristic features. Clear? So we start with the viruses. What are viruses? So there's simple way to define virus, that these are acellular entities. They are simple, okay? They are very primitive. They are not even a complete cell. They are acellular entities. A acellular word is very important because we know that the basic functional unit of life is a cell, and something that is smaller than a cell, we cannot state it as living because the basic unit of life is a cell. Okay, so anything lesser than cell, we cannot say it's a living. That's why we count virus as a organism, even not even as an entity, as an entity that's between living and non-living, because the basic unit of life is a cell and it's acellular entities. So if it's not a cell, what a virus is, what its structure, okay, if we do not find the usual cellular structure in that. So a virus is a nucleoprotein. We will discuss it. Okay, I'm just stating it now that it's a nucleoprotein. It's a genetic material. It's generally a genetic material like this, surrounded by a protein coat. Okay, and that's why we say it's a nucleoprotein. Okay, so it's not even a complete cell, it's a acellular entity. Next point we need to focus on, that they can reproduce only within the living cells. Okay, it's very important that they are okay. We are going to study that viruses have both the phase. Okay, they have extracellular phase and they have intracellular phase. When they infect the host cell, they start their intracellular phase. Okay, so what important, that they can exist outside the host cell, they can exist extracellularly, but they can only reproduce, means they can only complete their life cycle inside a host cell. Okay, this is very important, and this feature separated from other microorganisms which can be cultured in a petri dish. Okay, because we provide certain nutrients which are favorable to them and they grow, we can cultivate them, but we cannot cultivate a virus like other microorganisms. Why? Because it needs a live cell to reproduce, to complete its life cycle, because it's not enough that we provide them the proper nutrients for their growth, because they don't have the machinery for it. They just have nucleoprotein, and sometimes they also contain a fatty envelope. Okay, we'll talk about it later when we'll discuss the structure. So two things we learned, that these are acellular entities. Okay, and they reproduce only inside living cells. Okay, so how they live inside living cell? Okay, they are obligatory intracellular parasite, means they cannot be extracellular. It's very important that they live inside they are parasitic in nature because they are living inside some cell. Okay, they are taking nutrition or some advantage from the host cell, so they are a parasite. But what type of parasite are they? They are obligatory intracellular parasite. And what means by obligatory word is very important, because obligation means they don't have another choice. Okay, if I'm saying that virus is an obligate intracellular parasite, it means virus do not have another option other than being an intracellular parasite. They cannot exist extracellularly. Means they can exist extracellularly, but not inside a host, not on a host cell. Okay, if they need to start their intracellular phase, means they need to reproduce, they have to enter the host cell. There needs to be an intracellular parasite. Okay, So these are viruses. I hope we are clear about what are viruses. Okay, now we are going to focus on discovery of viruses, how they're discovered. Even viruses, even before the discovery of viruses, when we don't know even viruses, what are viruses. Okay, now we know, but in the beginning, the early times, we don't know what viruses are, but they exist from the beginning, because they're also adapted through the evolution. They are present from the beginning, and that's why they are also causing diseases and death of many organisms from the beginning. So there was a case of smallpox. Okay, smallpox in cows, and we all know that a story that Edward Jenner uses, that is also called the father of immunology. Okay, and Louis Pasteur and Edward Jenner made vaccines. Okay, they used vaccines, and what they did, they made vaccines against virus infection, but they don't know what at that time what virus is. They have no idea about the causal organism of those infections or those diseases. They just made the treat this just tried, like in the case of smallpox, they just extracted the serum from the smallpox of the cow and then injected in a human. And due to the similarity in strains of the viruses, it worked against the smallpox in humans. Okay, but they don't know, even the treatment worked, but they don't know what they're dealing with, because they have the no concept of viruses at that time. Okay, so when the viruses get discovered, when scientists first get to know that there is something like a virus, there's something entity like a virus, because at that time they were aware about other microorganisms like fungus and bacteria. So there was a virus called TMV virus, and it got named later. There's a virus called TMV. At that time it was not named, even we don't know what viruses are at that time. So TMV virus, what did it? Infected a tobacco plant. Okay, and that's why it infected other tobacco plants too, because virus infection are very rapid. Okay, so what happened? Dmitry Ivanovsky in 1892, what he did, he used a Chamberlain filter paper. What a Chamberlain filter paper is? It's a bacterial filter paper. Okay, it has pores, obviously, but it has pores. Okay, these pores are small enough, okay, to filter the bacteria, but they are not small enough to filter a virus. Viruses are very small than bacteria. Okay, so these are not enough to filter a virus. So, but Dmitry Ivanovsky didn't know about that at that time. So what he did, he filtered that infected sap from an infected tobacco plant, okay, which is infected by TMV virus. He filtered that, and he found that the filtered sap, even after filtering, that sap is able to infect other healthy tobacco plants. And this astonished Dmitry Ivanovsky. Okay, this, because according to him, nothing can pass with bacteria, because there was no concept about virus. So he thought that this, after filtering this infected sap, now it should be a bacterial free. Now it shouldn't harm the healthy tobacco plant, but it did. And that's and at that point, Dmitry Ivanovsky get aware that there is something smaller than bacteria which are capable of infection to other organisms. Okay, so when we talk about the discovery of TMV, tobacco mosaic virus, or simply discovery of viruses, we credit it to Dmitry Ivanovsky. But Dmitry Ivanovsky did not name the TMV, or did not name the virus term. The virus term is named by another scientist called Martinus Beijerinck. Okay, he collected the filtered infectious substance and called it a virus, and he also called it as a famous term, that contagium vivum fluidum, which means living infectious fluid. Okay, then later sometime the F.W.T. Walt and H.D. Harley also discovered bacteriophages, because at that time when Dmitry Ivanovsky found that there is something smaller which is capable of filtering through bacterial filter papers, other scientists got known by this fact. Okay, and they are not aware that there is something smaller. So from that time, discoveries started to happen. Scientists got more focused on something smaller than a bacteria. Then Stanley comes. Stanley did what? It crystallizes. He crystallizes the TMV virus. Now remember that Dmitry Ivanovsky discovered the TMV virus. Okay, he discovered TMV virus, or in general he discovered viruses. But who crystallized the virus? It was Stanley who crystallized the virus. Okay, and also the term virus itself is not given by Dmitry Ivanovsky. It was the contribution of Martinus Weijering. Clear? Also, Biden and Pyre did some amazing work, and what they did, they told us about the nature of virus, that it's a nucleoprotein in nature. Okay, that it's a nucleoprotein in nature. Nucleoprotein, and we already know, we discussed that nucleoprotein, nucleo word is stating that there is genetic material which is surrounded by a protein coat. Okay, and we can also say it capsid. So if we say nucleocapsid, a virus is a nucleocapsid, we know that a capsid here means proteinaceous coat. So we can say it's a nucleoproteinaceous in nature, or we can say simply virus, it's a acellular entity which is a nucleocapsid, means a nucleic acid is surrounded by a capsid, proteinaceous capsid. Okay, and now also some viruses can be enveloped and non-enveloped viruses. That what is meant by this, that there can be an extra coating of lipid. Okay, there can be extra coating of a lipid envelope around the proteinaceous capsid. It's not compulsory. Okay, only the enveloped virus has it, like influenza virus, it's an enveloped virus, but TMV is not an enveloped virus. It's just a nucleoprotein, or we can say nucleocapsid. Clear? Now we are going to study about general characteristics of viruses. We already have some idea about these characters, that these are obligate intracellular parasites, and they cannot be cultured inside an artificial culture media, because they can only reproduce inside the living cell. That's why. So what are the methods how we're going to cultivate viruses we need for a vaccine? So what we do, we inoculate living cells like a embryo, or mice. We use mice. There are a lot of methods. We inject in some living cell to cultivate it. Okay, we cannot just culture it in an artificial medium like we culture other microorganisms. We also know that these are extremely macroscopic structures. That's why they are able to pass down the bacterial filter paper. That was the reason of the discovery in the first place, because they're extremely macroscopic, and they manage to pass down through the bacterial filter paper. We can also see it Chamberlain filter paper, and that's why able to infect the healthy tobacco plant. If we talk about the nature, we also know that these are nucleocapsid. Okay, and capsid here represents the proteinaceous coat, and around this proteinaceous capsid, some viruses also have a membrane envelope made up of lipid. Okay, and on that basis they can be termed as enveloped or absent non-enveloped virus. Enveloped virus example is influenza, while TMV is an non-enveloped virus. Okay, now we talk about that nature of this nucleic acid. We are saying nucleocapsid. Okay, so we are going to focus on nucleo part, means the genetic part of the virus. So this genetic part can be a RNA, it can be a DNA. Okay, it can be single stranded, or it can be double stranded like a DNA. It can be linear like a strand, or it can be circular. Okay, so there are a lot of variations out there for the genetic material. Also, if we talk about the capsid, especially in this video, we are going to talk just take a intro about this capsid. I will dedicate a special video for the capsid structure. Okay, where we will study the structure of different viruses based on the capsid symmetry. So capsid symmetry can be of different types. It can be a helical like in TMV. Okay, or also in influenza. It can be an icosahedral virus, it's a crystal like structure. Okay, or it can be in a complex symmetry, in which there is no a particular symmetry, it's just complex. We cannot dedicate a specific geometrical structure to it. It can be for example in bacteriophage. Okay, so capsid can have different symmetries, and we will discuss it in a separate videos, what these symmetries are, and what are the examples of it, what are the different features of particular capsid. And we know, as we know, that these are acellular entities, so they don't contain a cell wall, they don't have nucleus, no protoplasm, no cell organelles. They are very simple acellular entities. They can be filtered, they cannot be filtered by bacterial filter papers. And one more thing, and this part is very important, okay, that I already stated that virus can exist in extracellular phase and also in intracellular phase, okay. But we also stated that these are obligate intracellular parasite. What is meant by that? When we are saying that it can exist extracellularly and also intracellularly. Meanwhile, we are also saying that these are obligatory intracellular parasite. What we mean by obligate intracellular parasite is that they can reproduce inside a living host cell. Okay, that doesn't imply that they cannot exist outside a cell. They can exist outside the cell. They can exist extracellularly, but in an inactive state. Okay, this is very important. They cannot reproduce. They cannot continue their life cycle outside a cell. So to be inside a cell, they have to be to reproduce. They have to be inside a cell. So generally we use the term virus, okay, virus for both the extracellular phase and intracellular phase, but in reality the virus term specifically is used for intracellular phase. The replicating, because when a virus is extracellular, it's a complete nucleoprotein or maybe even enveloped if it's an enveloped virus, okay. But when it enters the host cell, it leaves all its outer covering behind and just allowed the nucleic acid to enter the host cell, because all the virus required is its nucleic acid, which can hijack the host cell machinery to replicate other components like capsid. So it doesn't need capsid, it leaves capsid, it leaves envelope outside the host cell. So what enters inside the host cell is just a nucleic acid which will replicate after hijacking. So that replicating nucleic acid, okay, that intracellular phase is called virus. Okay, while for the extracellular phase we use another term, and it is known as virons. Okay, so it's when we talk about the nucleoproteinaceous nature, it's an extracellular, it's a extracellular phase, and we call it virons. And when we're talking about replicating nucleic acid inside a host cell, it's a virus. Okay, so it's very important. We need to be, and that's why you need to focus on this line. When virus infect a host cell, and then after infecting the host cell, it replicates its genetic material, okay, at that time it's a virus. Then it will instruct the host cell to assemble other parts of the virus like capsid or envelope, okay. So when before the lysis of host cell, because there are actually two types of viruses, lysogenic and lytic viruses. And if we talk about lytic viruses, most of the time these viruses burst the host cell to come out, okay. So before bursting the host cell, what they do, they assemble all the components, okay. A virus enters a host cell and makes its component, its replicating nucleic acid, its capsid or its envelope, okay. But before leaving the host cell, before the cell lysis, it assembles its all complete part. And then what comes out of the host cell, the part which comes out of the host cell, it's a complete assembled virus. It's not just a replicating nucleic acid. So then we say that virons, that after the cell lysis, virons are released, not viruses, okay. Virons are released because these are complete structures and complete assembled structures. These are not just replicating nucleic acid. You need to be very clear on this concept. They also lack the enzyme system, okay. That's why they hack the machinery of host cell. They don't have anything, just it's a nucleoprotein which enters a host cell. So they use everything of the host and then synthesize their replicating, then synthesize new virus particles, and this means nucleic acid and other components like capsid and envelope, etc. They're highly infectious and they spread disease very quickly. And this is important, like in the early days of the COVID pandemic, we know that there was a rumor that COVID pandemic is going to get resolved by itself during the intense heat of the summers, but that didn't happen, okay. We need to have the vaccine. Why there was also some truth to that, okay? Why there was some rumors about it? Because viruses have a special kind of pathogenicity. They are very sensitive to pH and temperature, okay? Most of the viruses become inert, means becomes inactive at very high temperatures like 56 to 69 degrees Celsius, okay, and also beyond that they become inactive. But the problem is that this kind of temperature also kill humans, so this is not possible to have this much temperature in a summer, okay? If this temperature has the capability to kill viruses, it also has the capability to kill humans, and this kind of temperature is not what we get in summer, okay? So there was some truth that because they have special kind of pathogenicity, they are become inert at that high temperature range, but that temperature range is very high. It's not possible to have this temperature range in summer. And they are also sensitive to pH, okay? They are also sensitive to pH. They show activity in between pH between 5 to 9, and both these conditions are favorable to organism because humans and other organisms have this kind of pH, okay, and also they also cannot survive this temperature, so viruses are able to infect still, even they have this special kind of pathogenicity, okay? They are infected, they are able to infect a wide population, range of population. Another important characteristic is that they're unaffected by antibiotics. It means antibiotics don't work on them. Clear? And also that they remain 50%, they remain active a long time in 50% glycerol solution, and they can be precipitated with ethyl alcohol and acetone, okay? Means they can be vapored out, you can say, or they can be killed off with the ethyl alcohol and acetone. So this is about the viruses and their general structure. You can support me in this noble work of providing free lectures and quality notes by donating only a small amount per month. Even a small help from your side makes a huge difference. The details are in the description box. Thank you and take care from the Balaji Bomb.